In 2012, Phil Ivey entered two of the world's most heavily surveilled casinos and won approximately $22 million. No marked cards, no hidden devices, no rules broken. Judges in both the United Kingdom and the United States later confirmed it. Yet Crockfords in London withheld his $7.8 million. A US federal court ordered $10.1 million returned. In 2019, US Marshals walked up to a live tournament table to seize his winnings on the spot. The question was never whether Ivey cheated. It was how the law redefined cheating when no rule had been broken. Phil Ivey walked into Crockfords in London and Borgata in Atlantic City with nothing but a request to play high-limit baccarat. Over just a handful of nights in 2012, he left the tables with numbers that made casino executives freeze the tapes, £7.8 million in a single August session at Crockfords. 4 sessions at Borgata stacked up $9.6 million. Combined, the haul reached nearly $22 million. Not a single alarm was tripped, no suspicious markers, not even a raised eyebrow from the pit bosses. Security logs show the tables calm, dealers unhurried, chips sliding quietly across the green felt. The cameras rolled, catching nothing but routine hands and polite requests. No one flagged the play because nothing broke the rules. The method was edge sorting, an advantage hidden in plain sight, relying on nearly invisible flaws in the backs of the casino's own cards. By the time the losses were tallied, the house had been beaten at its own game, and the only thing more shocking than the numbers was the silence on the casino floor. If no rule was broken, how could so much money vanish without a trace? And who else was sitting at that table, unseen by the cameras, guiding every move? Cheung Yin Sun, known in gambling circles as Kelly Sun, never sat under the spotlight. Her face rarely appeared in the casino's official reports. Yet every dollar won at those baccarat tables traced back to her eyes. Years before partnering with Phil Ivey, Sun spent hours behind the felt as a dealer in Macau, training herself to pick out the tiniest flaws in decks that most players would never notice. Where others saw a blur of identical blue or red patterns, Sun saw microscopic differences, a border a fraction lighter, a dot misaligned by less than the width of a hair. Her vision was unparalleled. Her skill was not a parlor trick. In court, vision experts described Sun's acuity as rare, able to spot a 0.02 millimeter shift in ink. During the sessions, she would scan the back of each card as it slid across the table, instantly sorting high from low value in her mind. Every time the dealer rotated a card at her polite request, Sun was mapping the shoe. She communicated her findings to Ivey in code, turning a random deck into a system only they understood. Sun's motive was as sharp as her vision, a 30% share of whatever Ivey could win. For her, edge sorting was a test of skill, one she had honed for years, waiting for the right partner and the right moment. But if no rule was broken, and the only weapon was a pair of eyes, what exactly did the casinos claim she had done wrong? Edge sorting begins with the cards themselves, plastic, casino grade, fresh from the manufacturer. Hidden in their design are microscopic flaws, invisible to almost everyone except for a select few. Each deck carries a fingerprint, a border that is a hair wider on one side, a faint shadow at the edge, a dot slightly out of place. The difference is less than half the width of a human hair, but for Cheung Yin Sun, it is as clear as a neon sign. The ritual starts with a simple request: rotate the cards. Dealers are used to high rollers asking for quirks, turning cards for luck, swapping out the shoe, keeping the same dealer all night. Ivey and Sun take full advantage, asking the dealer to spin certain cards 180 degrees, always under the pretense of superstition. Each time a card is turned, Sun's mental map grows sharper. High-value cards face one way, low-value cards the other. The dealer, following customer service protocol, unwittingly locks in the pattern. No marked cards, no hidden devices, no sleight of hand, just the casino's own cards, their own dealer, their own procedures. Every edge, every flaw, every rotation is sanctioned by the house. Yet with each hand played, the ODDS tilt. How could a system built on chance be so easily bent by a pair of eyes and a polite request? And if the only thing exploited was a factory defect, where does skill end and cheating begin? Crockfords didn't just hold back the £7.8 million. They made the first move in court. On October 5, 2013, the club's lawyers filed a civil claim in the High Court, arguing that Phil Ivey's edge sorting crossed a line, one they said was written into the fine print, not the felt. The claim did not accuse Ivey or Kelly Sun of marking cards, using devices, or breaking a single rule of baccarat. Instead, it pointed to the casino's own internal code. Any manipulation of the game, even if done with nothing but a sharp eye and a polite request, could void a win. The casino's management described edge sorting as a breach of contract, not a criminal act. Their language was cold, clinical, and absolute. The winnings were frozen, locked away in Crockfords' vaults, with Ivey's name nowhere on the payout ledger. For Ivey and Sun, the money was now a legal hostage, caught between skill and the letter of the law. The High Court claim laid out the casino's case in stark terms. The game of punto banco, by its rules and spirit, was supposed to be pure chance. Any action that tipped the odds, even one the casino's own staff unwittingly allowed, could be grounds to refuse payment. As the legal filings stacked up, the question stopped being about who won at the table. It became about who controlled the definition of fair play. While Ivey's team prepared to fight for the payout, Crockfords' lawyers made it clear, until the courts decided, not a single pound would leave the casino. But if edge sorting was not cheating and the rules were never broken, what exactly did Crockfords claim was stolen? Borgata's legal team wasted no time. On May 28, 2014, they filed a civil suit in the United States District Court for the District of New Jersey, naming Phil Ivey and Cheung Yin Sun as defendants. The complaint read like a blueprint for fraud. Borgata claimed the pair had manipulated the game, exploiting the casino's own cards and dealer to tilt the odds. The casino did not allege marked cards or hidden devices. Instead, their argument hinged on the idea that edge sorting, by arranging for the dealer to rotate cards at Sun's request, constituted a deceptive act that violated the spirit of baccarat. Court documents described the sessions in detail. 4 visits across 2012, nearly $10 million in chips sliding across the felt. Borgata's attorneys pointed to surveillance logs, staff statements, and the ritualized requests that turned a random deck into a system. The heart of their case was a single principle: any manipulation, even one allowed by house rules and carried out in plain sight, could be redefined as fraud if it tampered with the casino's expectation of chance. Judge William H. Walls delivered his ruling in September 2016. The court found for Borgata, ordering Ivey and Sun to pay back $10.1 million. the original $9.6 million, plus statutory interest. The judgment did not accuse them of cheating in the criminal sense. It framed edge sorting as a civil fraud, a violation of the unwritten contract between player and house. With a single signature, the winnings became a collectible debt, enforceable by law. For Ivey, the casino floor had turned into a courtroom, and every dollar won was now evidence. But if the rules of baccarat were never broken, how could a legal system rewrite the definition of fairness overnight? On October 25, 2017, the highest court in the United Kingdom delivered its verdict. 5 justices, led by Lord Hughes, sat in judgment over Phil Ivey's appeal. Their decision would ripple far beyond the walls of Crockfords or the felt of any baccarat table. The Supreme Court ruled unanimously. Ivey had not broken a single rule of baccarat. Every request he made, every action at the table, was permitted by the casino's own staff. Yet, the court held the game itself had been subverted. The judgment cut through the technicalities. Edge sorting, they said, was not a trick of luck or a feat of observation. It was a calculated manipulation of the conditions the game was supposed to guarantee. Lord Hughes wrote that it is essential that Punto Banco remains a game of pure chance. The court found that by orchestrating the rotation of cards to exploit their hidden flaws, Ivey and his partner, Cheung Yin Sun, had undermined that randomness. The casino's promise of chance, not the letter of the rules, became the court's line in the sand. But the verdict went further. The Supreme Court did not just close the door on Ivey's winnings. They set a new legal standard for dishonesty in the United Kingdom, the Ivey test. From that day forward, the question was not whether a player personally believed they were acting fairly, but whether an ordinary, reasonable person would call those actions dishonest. The ruling redrew the boundaries of advantage play and forced every casino, player, and lawyer to rethink what it means to cheat. The money stayed locked in Crockfords' vault. Ivey's name now stood for a paradox, a player who broke no rule, yet lost everything to a new definition of dishonesty. If the law itself could change the meaning of fair play overnight, what chance did anyone have of knowing where the line really was? Casino operations manuals did not wait for the ink to dry on the court rulings. Within months of the verdicts, the Borgata began pulling every deck from its baccarat inventory, swapping out thousands of cards for new batches. Internal memos ordered floor managers to inspect the backs of every deck for even the slightest irregularity, a shadow, a border shift, a dot out of place. Dealers were retrained to rotate entire shoes before each game, breaking the ritual that let edge sorting thrive. The days of honoring player requests to turn cards for luck were over. Manufacturers scrambled to keep up. Jamaco, whose cards sat at the center of the Atlantic City sessions, issued technical bulletins to all casino clients, warning of asymmetric printing errors and urging pre-game rotation protocols. Copag and Bicycle followed with their own advisories, pushing casinos to adopt symmetrical patterns and to run a 30-degree rotation test on every new shipment. Trade associations sent out alerts. Any deck showing a flaw went straight to the shredder. Crockfords and Borgata both started logging every deck's serial number and requiring visual inspections before each shoe hit the felt. The Borgata's internal reports detail a full inventory replacement after the disputed sessions, a move designed to erase any trace of the flaws Ivey and Sun had exploited. Across the industry, policy manuals were rewritten. No more exceptions, no more superstitions, no more edge for anyone. But as casinos sealed off one vulnerability, a new question crept in. If the house could rewrite the rules after the fact, what chance did any player have of knowing where the next trap might be hidden? July 2019. The World Series of Poker is in full swing. Phil Ivey sits at the table, chips stacked, eyes locked on the felt. He's just cashed for more than $4 million in the $1 million buy-in event. Another deep run, another payday. But as the final hand wraps and the dealers start to count, the room shifts. Two men in dark suits step forward. US Marshals, badges out, court order in hand. They aren't here for a photo op. They're here for the money. The writ is clear. Seize Ivey's winnings right there at the table to satisfy the civil judgment of $10.1 million from the Borgata. The chips are counted, logged, and carted away before the cameras can catch up. Players whisper as the scene unfolds. No handcuffs, no accusations. Just the cold machinery of federal enforcement grinding across the green felt. For Ivey, the victory vanishes in real time. Years of appeals, legal filings, and courtroom arguments, all reduced to a pile of chips swept up by the government. The casino world watches as one of its most feared players is stripped of his prize, not for breaking a rule, but for winning too well. The seizure is swift, clinical, and public. The message is unmistakable. In the eyes of the law, a win can turn into a debt without warning. But with the chips gone and the cameras rolling, one question lingers. If the rules of the game don't protect a player, what is left to trust in the house? In July 2020, after the dust from the US Marshals raid had barely settled, Borgata and Phil Ivey reached a confidential agreement. No press conference, no courtroom drama, just a joint statement confirming the dispute was amicably resolved. The exact terms vanished behind non-disclosure clauses. Did Ivey pay back millions or negotiate a fraction? Did the Borgata finally get its money or simply close the file and walk away? Official records show only that Borgata agreed not to pursue further collection. The $9.6 million from Atlantic City, the court-ordered $10.1 million, and the seized World Series of Poker winnings all faded into legal silence. Crockfords, for its part, never released £7.8 million, and the London case sits frozen, unresolved, as of the last public filing. For the public, the final numbers remain a mystery. The only certainty is that the story ended not with a verdict, but with a handshake in the shadows. If the world's most feared player could win by the rules and still lose it all, what does a settlement really settle? Phil Ivey's story does not stand alone. Every time a casino rewrites its rulebook, someone is already working on the next loophole. In the shadows behind the high-stakes tables, names like Richard Marcus and Ed Thorpe are whispered with the same mixture of awe and suspicion. Marcus, the master of the Savannah move, spent decades quietly lifting chips off felt without ever facing a jury. Thorpe, a mathematics professor with a chalkboard and a plan, broke blackjack wide open in the 1960s, forcing Las Vegas to bring in continuous shuffling machines just to keep up. Each of them found a way to turn the house's own systems against itself. Ivey joins their ranks not as a criminal, but as the latest in a line of players who forced the industry to redraw the boundaries between skill and deception. The IV test now sits in law books, but the blueprint for advantage play keeps evolving, one flaw, one angle at a time. If the rules can be changed overnight, who is really setting the limits and who is already working out the next system? Today, casinos still wield the final say. Crockfords never paid, and Borgata's settlement terms remain locked away. The Ivey test now defines dishonesty in UK law, yet not a single baccarat rule was broken. Edge sorting exposed a system where winning legally can still make you the villain. The real gamble isn't in the cards, it's in who gets to rewrite the rules. What happens when skill itself becomes a crime?